Jonathan Edwards.
Mr Davis, it's a pleasure to
Can I say that if people can limit their remarks to 10 minutes each, we'll get everyone in. I do apologise for interrupting.
I'll endeavour to reach your instruction, Mr Davis. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. Can I begin by congratulating the member for Middlesbrough South and the member for Redcar for securing this debate, and to commend the member for Middlesbrough South on his opening remarks. He showed a deep understanding of the industry, and it was a genuine pleasure to listen to his opening speech. And I'd also like to thank the Backbench Business Committee for allocating time this afternoon for this important debate. I rise to speak on behalf of the steel industry in Wales, arguably the most important component of the Welsh economy. Tata Port Talbot employs around 4,000 people directly, but its supply chain is reported to sustain 20,000 jobs in Wales and contributes £3.2 billion per annum to the economy of my country. When we talk of national economic strategic importance, steelmaking in Port Talbot is one of the most important in a Welsh context. It's almost impossible to talk about anything else these days without mentioning Brexit, so I'll get this out of the way right at the start. Recent revelations about the backroom deal the UK government cut with Nissan highlights the Tory strategy to pick winners when it comes to Brexit. I will, of course, back any incentives which support important industries such as the automotive sector, both in their own right and as customers of the steel industry. But guarantees of this nature must also be extended to the steel industry, the point made by other members earlier in this debate, the backbone of the Welsh economy. My answer to the government's Brexit conundrum when it comes to steel, of course, is to stay in the single market and the customs union. It's fair to say the last time we had a debate of this nature, the mood was very dark and genuine fears about the future of steelmaking in Wales and the UK. The reasons behind the pressures on the industry are well documented and have been made here again today. And instead of repeating those points, I would like today, in my contribution, to highlight some of the points made in an excellent report by Swansea University, published in September. The report, entitled "The Sun Has Risen Over Steel Town, Developing a Sustainable Steel Industry in the UK," was written by some of the most eminent steel experts in the UK. Professor Sridhar Sitharam, Professor Dave Worsley, Dr Cameron Pleidell-Pierce and Mr Brian Eadie, and I commend them for their work. The report puts forward a very positive prognosis for the steel industry if supported with swift strategic government action. The Tata Steel strip business in Port Talbot is today making a profit, performing above the ambitious levels targeted in the local transformation plan put forward at the height of the crisis last year, a plan, of course, which had been rejected as over-ambitious by the Tata board in Mumbai. This is quite an incredible achievement. However, in a session held a few weeks ago by the National Assembly for Wales Economic Committee, evidence from steel producers and manufacturers indicated that order books were, whilst buoyant at present, could take a turn for the worse in the second quarter of next year, indicating once again the huge volatility of the industry and that the next crisis could come sooner than anyone would hope. In other words, this is no time for governments here in London and Cardiff to take their eye off the ball. Therefore, the issue surrounding the high electricity prices, where domestic steelmakers face a £17 per megawatt disadvantage when compared to competitors in Germany, continue to be ones that should be urgently addressed. Both the UK and the Welsh Government, of course, need to look at business rates and what can be done to remove plant and machinery investments from rateable calculations. And we also need firmer protocols on procurement. As the report from Swansea University highlights, only 40% of domestic demand is supplied by domestic producers. And I point the finger at the Welsh Government as well in this regard. The Swansea University report highlights that a main consideration for the profitability of plants like Port Talbot are prices of raw materials and sales price. In 2014-15, the global weighted sales price fell by 26% due to much documented Chinese dumping. At the same time, the price of iron ore fell by 60%, hugely significant when considering that Port Talbot annually spends on raw materials $1 billion. A core aim to create a sustainable industry, therefore, is to build resilience to fluctuations. The report states quite clearly that it would be logical to use a period where conditions are favourable, like now, to make the necessary technological innovations needed to make the sector more resilient. The report makes the case that Port Talbot could evolve into a leading-edge zero-carbon steelmaker with carbon-positive products utilising locally generated byproducts as a chemical and raw materials feedstock. It makes the case that Port Talbot has a viable future once in the hands of an owner with a long-term vision and who will commit to and invest in transformational change. Tata's ability to deliver this much-needed transformational change arguably has been hindered by his decision to vastly reduce research and development investment in its UK plants and centralise activities in IJmuiden in Holland. Which brings me to the current state of play in Port Talbot, where Tata are in advanced discussions with ThyssenKrupp about a merger of their European operations. If the Minister takes one thing from today, let he be in no doubt that this proposed merger provides a real threat to the future of Port Talbot. As the Swansea University report states, and I quote, ThyssenKrupp Steel believes that capacity reduction is needed in Europe, and Port Talbot could become a convenient sacrifice to them. These are not new concerns. They have been expressed by others and myself in this place in the past, and Unite, the union in the National Assembly evidence session only a few weeks ago, made that point very strongly. My constituency colleague and predecessor in this place, Adam Price, Assembly Member, on behalf of my party, has argued that the UK Government should intervene if the proposed merger goes ahead, unless there are specific guarantees about the long-term future of Port Talbot. And his reasoning is perfectly valid when considering the record of ThyssenKrupp. In August this year, Reuters reported that Andreas Goss, Chief Executive of ThyssenKrupp Steel Europe, had announced a new aggressive cost-cutting plan for its operations based on plant closures. It's concerning that the voice of the UK Government in Wales, the Secretary of State for Wales, is on the record as saying that the proposed merger is, and I quote, encouraging. Which brings me to the last point I want to make today, Mr Davis. There is an alternative option on the table which seems to me to be far more encouraging in terms of achieving the long-term sustainable future we all desire. The recent news that two former rivals, Excalibur and Liberty Steel, have joined forces is to be welcomed. The bid has Welsh Government support, which is significant. This rival bid would lead to the creation of a new domestic company, probably the largest Welsh company in terms of turnover. Liberty, of course, has made its name in taking over steel operations in the UK and converting operations by installing furnaces capable of recycling scrap steel. This process obviously helps remove fluctuations made from the business model, helping to create a more sustainable business. In the United States, the Swansea University report indicates that 60% of steel is now produced from scrap steel by remelting in electric arc furnaces. The Excalibur-Liberty deal, therefore, offers the exciting prospect of green steel and primary steel being produced side by side, helping meet the transformative challenge set by the Swansea University report. Yeah?
Any option has to be looked at in terms of Port Talbot's future. I remember being studying a debate talking about Port Talbot and whether Tata was going to retain it, as we could foresee the changes in prices on strip and the profit that would potentially come out of Port Talbot. I would reiterate, though, that Liberty is a good company, has come in. But if we're talking about scrap steel, without primary virgin steel being produced, there is no scrap steel to recycle. And my concerns are about any mill rolling slab or rebar, indeed, where that source is coming from. Again, this comes back to the questions about Chinese imports. We need to have guarantees on where the primary source slab or rebar is coming from. Or billet, sorry, billet.
I'm very grateful for that intervention, and I think I was endeavouring to make that point, that the Liberty Excalibur deal potentially offers the future whereby the green steel, as it's called, and primary steel is produced side by side from the two blast furnaces in Port Talbot. And keeping those two blast furnaces open is vital for the viability of Port Talbot. But I'm very grateful for that intervention. I think he's completely correct in what he says. So my message to the Minister is quite simple. This could be a huge success story for Wales and the UK as a whole. And my last ask for him in my contribution, Mr Davis, would be for him to at least to agree to meet with the proponents of that deal, the leaders of the Excalibur-Liberty deal, at least have that meeting to see whether there is an option for the government, as well as the UK government, as well as the Welsh government, pulling their weight behind a bid which seems to be having unanimous support in Wales. Diolch yn fawr iawn.